Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to cover the Black Clover chapter 292. I know I don't have a great track record with keeping things up, but hey, we're here. I got time today. That's why we're covering it. Anyway, chapter 292. Overall, I think this was really cool. Like last week's chapter 291 was pretty interesting with the soul chain being created, but this week's chapter is the explanation of the soul chain, which I really do legitimately appreciate. Also on this chapter, unfortunately, looks like it was half done. Looks like there's some stress going on the studio side because a few of the pages were not finished, which is a little bit unfortunate because it's like for some of those spots you kind of want to see the crispness of the art, but what can you do? We live in a different world now and we know with Black Clover this has happened before. It's probably just a busy time at the studio or whatever. Regardless, it's nice to have the chapter, and it's nice that the author isn't sick or anything like that, because usually when this is happening, there's other things going on in the background, so, you know, fingers crossed that they're not sick. But anyway, yeah, Black Clover chapter 292. Overall, in general strokes, I think this was pretty cool. It's a nice full chapter, and it has some neat stuff going into it. I think for this one, I'll go into a page-by-page walkthrough just to make sure I don't miss anything. But I won't really be showing too much of the pages because the chapter is not officially out, and I might legitimately get in trouble here, right? So we're not gonna do that. Anyway, the chapter opens with page 1 being a flashback to half a year ago. So we knew that this was in the works. We know it's been roughly the time scale, so that's not surprising. I thought this first page was pretty cool. It was cool to see Magna on the floor bowing down before Zora to get some information out of him, or, you know, to learn from him pretty much. And it was cool to see him acknowledge that, hey, this guy's legitimately neat. In terms of what he's done before with his trap magic. On page 2, we have Magna pointing out his rivalry with Luck and that he can't fall behind him. This part is actually pretty rough, because this is one of those moments where the disparity between him and Luck really comes out. And so, especially when he brings this up as the big reason why he doesn't want to fall behind, and of course with him not burning the Black Bulls, I thought this was really good. I think this is a really good way of connecting to that. And I wouldn't mind if we actually just had a few more dialogues about him acknowledging the general difference that occurs. Although he does acknowledge it later in the chapter, but it was just cool to see Luck being pointed out here. It's always nice to have the reminder of the relationship. Anyway, this page was about more relationships because Zora also thinks of his father as he's looking at Magna. So that might also be, you know, biasing him to be helpful, but I think overall, in terms of this page, the connections to relationships, I think, was really good. There's a lot of heart occurring in this moment. Anyway, Zora also points out that maybe by doing this, he might learn something too, which I think is very reasonable, and for a smart character like him, I think is appropriate. Anyway, from there, we go into the next page, which is showing off the guy's secret base. And not gonna lie, when you see it, it's like, bruh, you deserve whatever accolades you get. You deserve them. Look at all that work that went into that damn place, man. Anyway, Zora tells us that he's also trying to be the strongest he can be. Anyway, the next page is the explanation page of just what exactly is the playing field that these two characters are on, right? We find out, right? We get reminded how exactly the Heart Kingdom style works, and specifically that they need a lot of magic power, sense, and adaptivity. But that's not something that the commoners have. And so this is where things get very interesting. Here we learn that Zora in particular has to create formulas ahead of time, which is an interesting idea. I do kind of wish we had more about how exactly Zora's magic works, because I want to know exactly what create a formula ahead of time. I want to know the exact time scale as to what that means. Anyway, we get into it, and we have the idea that the low class have an advantage. And this is pretty interesting. So, the way it works here is that if you make a magic circle with weak magic, it doesn't disappear because it's too weak. So I think I understand that. I think just looking at the translations from the fan translations, I think I understand that. I think what they're saying is like the more magic you have, the more unstable the magic circle might be. Because what this is working, what this seems to be revolving around is that these guys can draw complicated circles that will stick around for a longer period of time, so they can work for it. They can work on it for longer. Like as the character says, you can create an absurdly complicated formula by spending an extended amount of time on it. Yeah, so I think that's the right interpretation, that if you have too much magic power, your circle's going to be way more unstable, but if you have too little magic power, it's not going to be unstable, so it'll stick around in the environment for longer. I think that's what's got to be going on, because like when you see the art as well, they're showing a lot of him drawing the circle out there. It's just because like otherwise, you know, if you have a lot of magic, what stops you from creating an absurdly complicated formula, right? It has to be some kind of disproportionate relationship with the stability of how long the magic can stay out. But yeah. Anyway, it continues with Zora saying that you need to know more about mana and humans. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that this is something that revolves entirely around someone's knowledge, as opposed to, you know, any kind of natural talent. And I'm actually kind of curious as to what Zora knows about mana that the common folk or the common magic knight wouldn't know about mana. It's like the way that Magna goes into it, he also mentions that the more you know, the more profound the mana is. And it's like, what exactly are you guys drawing out of this that no one else knows? I'm kind of curious. Anyway, the next element that we get in this whole magic circle creation process is that we learn that also, I wonder how the magic circles work with the spells that you learn in your book, and what, because they're actually formulating spells. But whatever. I guess they're saying mana method, but whatever. We then later have the issue of compatibility, pretty much just Magna saying that he can't do the payback with double, like the compatibility with the magic doesn't work. And then we have Magna pointing out his idea about what he can do here. Anyway, the flashback ends with us seeing that Magna put a lot of work into creating the circle. And at this stage, I think it's important to point out that this chapter has a lot of narrative techniques going into it, because this magic is relatively powerful, right? It does move things into an arena where Magna looks really cool, right? And when you're looking at the narrative techniques, what they're doing here, the author has created such a situation that this is a really self-contained issue. And this is the page that really shows it. It's when Magna says that this magic can only be used once after preparing and making it for half a year. Given the things that are being said on this one panel, it's like, you know, this is how the author is going to balance out this magic. Maybe we'll see it again, like maybe at the final arc or something like that. Usually when you have a magic only be used once, that's usually hyperbole. That line usually only lasts for an arc, because it's pretty much saying this is a one and done kind of deal for the arc itself. And given that there's an issue of preparing and making it for half a year, I do think that Magna could just prepare the magic circle again for another year or something like that. Honestly, I'm going to be looking into the official translation to understand the proper stipulations about how this creation process works, because it's possible that the Viz translation has something different. But yeah, overall, what you should take away when you see this panel is specifically the author saying, like, look, Magna is not going to be able to one-shot everyone here. This is a stopgap measure. Now, what is concerning to me is that this is a really nice moment for Magna, but I don't think that Magna is going to be able to ultimately win. He's ultimately putting in a dent. If he does get a win over Dante, I think that would be amazing. But I think like there's too many tricks on the other side where the guy can come back with some weird, just aggressive loophole abuse or something like that. But in terms of a stall, it's a great stall. It's just like, again, when I'm looking at this, I feel a lot that this could end the way it did with, what was his name again? The animal guy vet or whatever. You know, I just feel there's so many things, there's so many stipulations on this magic that it's there to be a stopgap, and it's probably going to ultimately just delay but not prevent kind of thing. And if the author went that way, I think that'd be fair. It's just that the other thing is that we don't have that many villains. That's why him going down here, it depends on how long the arc's gonna go. I'm ultimately very concerned, but I think at the end of the day, Magna's gonna have a good moment here. Anyway, we have more stipulations which just go to show why exactly this thing had to be tied up, or this thing had to be so self-contained with Soul Chain Deathmatch. We find out that the chain is our soul itself. So amazing that these guys, and you can see a little bit of the magic circle. The magic circle is complicated. Amazing that these guys were able to conceptualize the soul. And I love that they're able to put in a rule as to why you can't break the soul chain itself. But that was amazing. And I would like to know how exactly this guy discovered that making the soul into a chain will make someone go crazy. I want to know the exact... What research did this guy do that he came to the conclusion that if you tamper with a chain that connects your soul, you might go crazy? Right? Like, where does that innate knowledge come from? What kind of weird research did these guys come across? Like, which depraved family did they steal that information from? That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering, like, did this guy try pulling on the chain himself at some point? But then that kind of goes against, like, I can only use this magic once kind of thing. But yeah, what's going on there? But yeah, cool. Anyway, we get more stipulations with Zora saying attacks from the outside will be a disturbance with the effect of the magic. So just stay tuned. So again, so many techniques are going into this to justify what is going to happen here. And what you ultimately take away is that what Magna has done is that he has trapped Dante into his terms. This entire chapter, or like this second half of the chapter, is dedicated to saying, hey, this is Magna's world. You're fighting in it. There's no way out. That's what it's saying. And in terms of this thing of bringing an enemy down to your level, I actually really enjoy it. I think this is actually a really good move. I really enjoy characters that bring enemies down to their level. I think this is pretty intelligent, and in terms of the writing, the lengths to which the author is going to make this a tight situation are really appreciated. But unfortunately, the tighter you make these situations, the more hope you give the readers, and the more hope you give the readers, the more likely there's going to be a really bad upset. But thankfully, Zora is also there, so hopefully Zora will be able to save Magna if something goes wrong. But yeah, overall, we have a fight where these two are more or less equal, but this fight is pretty much in Magna's terms. If there's ever... This is pretty much a hard-boiled fight. This is pretty much Magna's to win. I am also, like, actually thinking about the Soul Link magic. This guy is demon-possessed. There might legitimately be two souls in that body, so that Soul Link magic might not properly parse the demon. If depending on how the author wants to conceptualize the demon's possession here. Anyway, the rest of the chapter becomes pretty typical after that. It's pretty much just Dante talking down Magna and all that kind of stuff, right? So at that point, there's not really much else to talk about besides, you know, getting excited. But it ultimately is very exciting. The big question is, will Magna ultimately win? I think there's a lot of things saying that he won't. I think he's going to get a loser's consolation prize. I think people are going to make the comments about, oh my god, he really damaged the man and all that kind of stuff. But this kind of stuff, historically, it's stopgap. I don't think Magna's going to get his victory here. I think he's going to get a lot of accolades, but this is going to end with some kind of weird tomfoolery going now. Like, demons are tricky, right? That's what they are. So, overall, I'm hopeful. I would love to be wrong. I would love to actually have this be a straight victory for him. But, unlikely. We'll have to see. We'll have to see in what way the author salvages Magna's fight here and says that he was still worthwhile. Obviously, like, it should be clear, he's worthwhile. He's doing damage. But yeah, we'll have to see what's coming up in the future. Anyway, guys, I would love to know what you think down below. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know what you think. And till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.